In a smartphone market full of rectangular slabs such as this, the Galaxy Fold 5 is a refreshing breath of fresh air, showing that smartphone makers are still willing to innovate. Hey, what up? It's your boy MobbJustice back again with another video, and for today we are getting into a review of the Galaxy Fold 5. That is the 5th iteration of Samsung's foldable smartphone device, and right off the bat I can definitely say that it's something that I personally like. As always, this video is brought to you by the team over at Lion Media. Head on over to check out some of the crispiest photo, video and audio content. That's www.lionmedia.com. Head on over, check it out and just see what the team can do for you. Now, as with my reviews of the Galaxy S23 and S23 Ultra, I am reviewing this device from the view of someone who is a long time, Samsung user. A little bit of a flex on my side is the fact that I was there when the Fold was originally debuted back in 2019, and I remember that I was at the South Africa launch. So at the very least, I could say that I was one of the first people in this part of the world to actually lay my hands on this particular device, and Samsung has done a lot to improve on the formula ever since. With this particular review, I took the phone into a number of different environments. I actually traveled to India a couple of months ago, and I actually took the phone with me just to see how it would react in different environments, how it acts as a travel companion, what is it like on flights and that type of thing. And I can definitely say that gave us a lot of opportunity to put the phone to its paces. So in terms of focus, this is the first foldable smartphone device that we've had on the channel. I've previously reviewed a folding tablet slash laptop device earlier on, but what I can definitely say is that many of the core features are similar to the S23 and S23 Ultra. So in terms of looking at this, I was more focused on the folding aspect of the device, since it's the first one of such a device that I have reviewed. So lots of productivity, or what is it like to live with on a daily basis, and a lot of media consumption. In terms of the unboxing, it's probably a standard unboxing experience for a Samsung flagship of today. You get the device and a USB-C cable. There's no audio accessories or a power brick of any kind, so pretty much standard, except that the box itself is an unusual shape given the shape of the phone, and it is square. In terms of design, this is probably the biggest standout feature of the Fold 5. It's basically looking as if you've got two, narrow body Samsung devices that are on top of each other. It's actually got a nice feel in the hand because of that narrow body, and it was actually, felt better than I thought it would. A little bit unusual because of the aspect ratio, but more or less, and a lot of people that I gave the phone to, handed it to them just to hold, feel, open, were quite impressed. When it comes to foldable devices, the crease is always a concern, and I can definitely say that it is noticeable. After a while, it sort of fades from your view as you get used to it. It's sort of like, I guess, the notch for people that are using older iPhones. However, you do notice it, especially if you are reading text and you've got that crease that's going in the middle. So if you're reading a web page, you do notice it from that point of view. Or if you're perhaps consuming content and you've got the phone turned onto its side. But I do say it is way better than what we were facing, the screen design itself, because you now have what feels to be a proper OLED that is there, much firmer than the original Fold from back in the day. The other standout features include the under display front-facing camera that is on the inside, as well as an illuminated gap, because you've got those two halves. Back in the day, there was quite a noticeable gap, and in this 5th iteration, they've done so well to get rid of that. So when it comes to design, I'm giving this one a 9 out of 10. The biggest thing for me as someone who encountered the first Fold is how much progress they've been able to make in terms of that inside screen and its durability, as well as getting closing that gap between the two halves. So 9 out of 10 it is. The second category, I'm gonna call it foldability, and it's basically just taking into consideration some of the unique aspects of having a foldable device. I'll start off with the fact that there's a dock on this device in terms of how they're using One UI, which is the software that this device uses. It's got this permanent dock that sits on the bottom. It disappears when you're in full screen consuming content, but you can easily swipe up to get quick access to some of your most used apps. You can customize it in the way that you want. So I found that to be pretty cool. Second thing for me was the keyboard and typing experience. As you can imagine, especially when it's folded out, the texting experience is a bit different to what one would be used to, how your fingers are placed. Samsung has come up with a solution where they split the screen. I think iPads also use a similar approach, but for me, I reverted back to a normal QWERTY style keyboard that is together as opposed to it being split. The split is a good idea, but I'm just not the target market. But more than anything else, I can say that productivity on this device is on another level because you've got that bigger display on the inside, reading documents, reading articles, which I spend a lot of time doing myself. Spreadsheets, making notes is top tier on a device like this because you've got all of that real estate. You don't constantly need to be zooming. There are some pages that do something called wrap text on a normal device, but with something like this you don't need to do that. You get that benefit of having that full screen. Whilst you're being productive, you do need to adopt a different type of posture when dealing with something like the Fold 5. There is a standard way in which you hold a phone, such as this, either with two hands or with one hand, but because of the wider stance, especially when it's open, it does stretch your hands a little bit, and when you do hold it out, your hands are a bit wider. If you try to hold it in one hand, it's actually quite a slippery device, and if it's closed, because of that narrow body, it changes things once again. So that's definitely something that someone does need to be conscious about. You can use an S Pen with this device, as we did with the S23 Ultra, but that is sold separately, so I didn't get a chance to try that out on this device. So when it comes to foldability, I am giving it a 9 out of 10, and the main reason for that, if you checked out my S23 Plus video from earlier on, I said that Samsung appears to have found its formula when it comes to its smartphone devices, and I think on the foldables as well, they have refined this design in a really good way. So for me, it's a 9 out of 10. The third aspect that we're going to be talking about is the screens, because you've got a foldable device. There are two screens, one on the outside and one on the inside. Samsung has been known to make some of the best displays on the market, and I've said it time and time again that their screen tech, I usually give it a 9 or a 10 out of 10. Now the two screens are a little bit different, but they look quite similar. The first one on the outside is probably the better display, is the one on the outside, but the one on the inside, they have really done a great job with that inside display. It looks so great, it looks vibrant, great black levels, and I really enjoyed consuming media on this device. One of the things that I did notice is the fact that the outside display, is a little bit brighter than the one on the inside. You do notice that aspect if you are outside or if you are, trying to use the phone in direct sunlight. Media consumption was probably my biggest highlight when it came to the Fold 5. Watching content is on another level, on this device, because you've got that bigger display. It was particularly useful, when I was on flights. As I said, I took it on a couple of flights during my review period, and watching the content and getting into it, it's quite immersive, and I thought that was really great. particularly on YouTube. Usually when you're watching widescreen content, you've got the black bars, and obviously because you're dealing with something that's more of a tablet, when it's open, that's more exaggerated because the content sits, you know, more in the middle, but you do have a lot more real estate and you do get to enjoy that. And it was really cool consuming YouTube on this device because YouTube now has a feature, you know, where the black bars are now being utilized, you know, to have, you know, somewhat of you know, some people put LEDs behind their TVs or their screens to create an immersive experience, and it seems YouTube has taken that concept, you know, turning those dull black bars into that type of thing. And it's really great when you've got a bigger device, you know, such as this. However, that is a feature that only works when you're online. If you're watching content offline, then the blacks remain their standard black. Something that I found interesting is how the phone deals with widescreen content. Usually if you're watching full screen content on, you know, one of these, you have to turn your phone, you know, over onto its side so that you can enjoy, you know, properly, instead of it being in the middle. What I did find interesting is that the Fold, even though it's got a big display when it's open, you're gonna get the biggest display if you still turn it to its side. So even a foldable device like this does not escape that particular dynamic. As much as I did enjoy watching videos and that type of content, I do have to say that the simple act of opening web pages, scrolling social media sites such as Instagram and Pinterest is really something else when you've got a display such as this. You're used to seeing it on an iPad maybe, or a tablet, but I promise you, when it's on a form factor such as the Fold 5, it does bring you know, somewhat of a new immersive experience. So for me, the screen, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Usually with the Samsung screens, I've given them even up to a 10. But I think for me, what still spoils this one is the crease. They've done a lot to, you know, make it better, but because we're seeing competing foldable devices where you're noticing the crease less, I do think that Samsung could do better in this particular regard. Moving on to the camera, just like the S23 range, the Fold 5 takes incredible stills images, especially if you're using those 3 cameras that are on the back. Night mode photos, I did notice that they take a little bit of time, you know, for you to snap whilst the computer is you know, gathering all the data expectedly. But what I did find particularly interesting is that maybe I missed it on other Samsung devices, but this phone in particular actually recognizes gestures, you know, especially if you're taking a selfie. So you can clap and the phone will actually snap a photo for you. On the video side of things, the Fold 5 takes incredible video, particularly when you are in a well-lit type of environment. I tested out all the cameras, you know, when I was on the road to see, you know, how they would act. What I was particularly impressed by was the stabilization that this particular, you know, phone has. I remember I even took it against, you know, something like this, an iPhone, and I have to say that what was coming out was quite incredible. However, I did notice that during the day, if you're walking in between areas of light and shade, that the camera does adjust for light quite aggressively. It's just one of those things that takes some getting used to, and it's quite natural because of the computational aspect of these cameras. So this is video on the cover, front-facing cameras. As you can see, I'm just moving through different areas, some shade, some direct sunlight, just so that you can see how the camera reacts to different areas of exposure. Also the microphone, you can just hear what it sounds like when you are outside. Looks pretty good and sounds pretty good as well. Now, because this is the Fold 5, there are a couple of unique features when it comes to the camera. 3 of them include the fact that you can do a half, a half open as opposed to a full open of the device to take a photo. It enters the selfie mode that gives you a little bit of a preview, and your controls go on the bottom half of the screen. I thought that was really cool. But what I found really great was if you open the phone out, you can actually create into a mode where you can take a selfie video with the back cameras and then using the front display screen as your preview screens for you to get the best video quality that you're going to get from the phone if you're going to be shooting yourself. So I thought that was a really great feature. Now, what is not yet great is that under display camera that we spoke about earlier on. You find that on the inside, and I just have to say that the images and the videos that are coming out of that are just subpar. Same test, but now using the front camera on the inside of the phone. Yeah, it's good, but lots to be improved. Obviously, the tech is still young and it's still growing, and hopefully they'll improve over time. And Samsung does need to be given, its flowers for incorporating such tech, into their devices. But it does still need a lot more refinement before it gets to a level where it is ready for prime time. So with all that in mind, we're giving the camera an 8.5 out of 10. This one doesn't score as highly as its S23 compatriots, mainly because of that under display camera. So in terms of everyday use, livability, as well as quirks, there's a couple of things that I did notice in my time with the Fold 5. Firstly, I do like the animated wallpapers that the phone comes with. We've seen these on the Samsung phones, through 2023. So, really great, especially when you see it on a bigger display. One of the things that's quite peculiar about the Fold 5 is the way that sound is reproduced. Like any other smartphone, it's got speakers at the top and at the bottom, and you notice this when the phone is in its closed form. However, when you do open up the phone and you're consuming content, whether it's music or whether it's a video, you notice that the sound is one-sided. You're going to hear the sound coming out of the left because that's where the speakers are, at the bottom and at the top of the left half of the phone. For you to get the proper stereo experience, you once again have to turn the phone onto its side. We spoke about that when it comes to getting the biggest screen size, but when you want the stereo experience, you do need to turn the phone onto its side, which is not too much of a biggie. Another thing that I noticed is that continuity, in my testing at least, seems to be hit or miss. And when I say hit or miss, I'm not sure whether it's hitting and missing or whether that's just how the software works. Continuity has to do with the fact that if you have a particular app running in the closed form, if you open up the device, you're meant to just be able to continue with what you are doing. So let's say you're on WhatsApp, you're texting a message, you open up the device, you are able to continue with whatever it is that you're doing. By the way, I do have to say that I like how certain applications are seen in that open mode. Take your WhatsApp, because it looks like the desktop version as opposed to the normal mobile version. But coming back to what I'm saying, you do have that continuity, from the front screen into the inside display. But what I did notice is that if you start something on the inside display and you close the device, it puts the device to sleep. I always thought that you could continue doing what you were doing on the outside screen, but it doesn't seem that that is the case. Another peculiar thing for me is the widgets. Like any other Android device, you can have widgets on the home screen for the Fold 5. But what I thought would happen is that if it's in its closed form and you set up a widget that way, that when you open it out, you're just going to get perhaps a bigger version, of that widget on your home screen when you open the device. But what I discovered is that, if you watched my Galaxy Buds 2 Pro video, I had set up the widget, for the wearables app, which sat on the home screen. But I noticed that when I would open the device, that widget was nowhere to be found. It seems that you're essentially running two desktops, if I'm gonna call it that. This one was just something that I found weird for myself. So when I had the device, I did not put a SIM card in it. I was mainly tethering from my main device or using the device on Wi-Fi. But interestingly enough, there were network bars, that were at the top of the screen, and these network bars would literally go up and down. I would go into the settings. At some point I thought maybe there's an eSIM or something. Go into the setting and it says that there's no network coverage, there's no SIM card, but these bars would be going up and down, and I'd wonder, what is this strength signal that they're picking up? With the particular unit that I was testing out, I did find that I had some Wi-Fi issues. There would be particular instances where the Wi-Fi connectivity would just cut out on its own, or particular instances where it would not even be able to detect my router. Perhaps it's a fault that it's my router, but I haven't noticed such an issue on other devices that I have tested over time. One thing that is excellent on this device, we forget sometimes that people do take calls on phones still, is that call quality on the Fold 5 is excellent. The speakers are some of the best and most clear that I have heard when talking to people on the phone. So because of some of these issues, whether it's the connectivity, screenshots, sound placement, all of that stuff, I'm going to give the livability score or everyday use a 7 out of 10. So overall, we're giving the Galaxy Fold 5 a 42.5 out of 50. I can safely say that this is the hybrid device that I didn't know that I needed. If you have the money, I just say easy recommendation, go out and get it. The phone is quite pricey at just under $2,000. I think depending on where you're getting it, it's roughly 1,800 US dollars. And the phone is not without its faults. In my mindset, if you have the money to spend close to $2,000 on a phone, you should be able to pocket some of the idiosyncrasies that come with having a device like this. People are still reporting damage when it comes to the crease and the screen. These are some of the issues that we're seeing on the first 4 iterations of the Fold device. So it's definitely something that you do need to keep in mind, particularly crease damage, as well as the film or the screen protector coming off. And because of that, for me, I would say that it's not a phone that I would in good conscience daily for myself. And the main reason for it is on 2 fronts. Firstly is on the durability. This is such a beautiful looking device that I would personally not feel good walking around with such a device in a case. This is one of those phones, I've always had cases on my phones, but this is one of those phones that you do need to just enjoy it in its natural form without anything encumbering it. And from that point of view, you'd always feel so conscious that if it falls, if something happens, that it's a bit of a fragile one. So on my end, it's a device that I would love to have around, but as my main and only device, it would be a tough sell for me. But I'm not everyone, and I have seen a number of people using the Fold 5. What I did find most interesting is that it tends to have been a lot of men that I've seen carrying around these devices, and more often than not, those guys that I've seen rocking the Fold 4 and the Fold 5 have tended to be very technical people. So people that are working in cybersecurity, cloud computing, some of those technical guys I've seen being the ones that are rocking the Fold 5. Interestingly enough, it's also a lot of men that tend to pick the Fold 5, because Samsung carries 2 lines of folding devices, that is the Flip and that is the Fold. And it seems that things seem to be split along gender lines, where women are going more for the Flip phone and then men are going more for the folding device. So that's where we end off. It has been a really great experience getting to explore the world of the Fold 5. As I said, I was really excited to go through and just hang out with the first foldable device that I would have carrying around on a daily basis. beautiful device, as I said, really great media consumption. With the money, with the resources, I would get it. But like I said, having it as my only device, I might be a little bit self-conscious on that front. You guys can let me know what you think. Have you caught onto the folding bandwagon yet? Do you have a fold device? If you do, is it a Samsung device, or have you gone with one of the competing devices? Because a number of competitors have entered the space, but I do think that for now Samsung does seem to have the most mature and most stable platform when it comes to foldable devices. You guys can let me know what you think. Would you or would you not spend the money on something like this? You guys can let us know what you think, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
Hey, this is Baby G, and you're watching the MobbJustice channel. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Live it, love it, like it. This is the MobbJustice TV.